answer. Yeah, we'll keep the conversation just rolling, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Smita, you want
Okay,
to say anything?
yeah, I thought we'll just set the context so that see if you start listening to something without having a question in mind, then nothing sticks. That's what I've seen. So probably to as the world goes, it's about all prompts. It's not about the responses. So what is the prompt you have in mind when you're hearing this conversation? Okay, so to get to that, the context is one is AI is coming in, I mean, or come in, and it is evolving on a weekly basis, new releases, new functionalities, and new ways of coming into our lives. That's one part of it. Second is the next generation, their preferences and expectations are way different. And probably the third aspect is work as we know today. I mean, whatever we see as the roles and what they deliver, they might also change. So what a week. I mean, most of us probably, if you're in India, you have another, at least people are thinking 8 years or so, we'll just somehow, without changing much, we'll be able to manage. But probably that's not the case. And probably we also have to work much longer than just another 8 years. So what is it that we have to do? That's one part of it. The second is most of our kids will be in the age of joining the workforce or something. If they ask something, we don't, I mean, not the points that we say may not be relevant to them or we'll not be able to advise them. So what do we advise them? So two parts to it in the context of changing world. So we're just looking at how is work going to change and what impact will it have on us. So that's the starting point. So we'll just, I mean, I don't think it's like you have to have a presentation or anything. It is like a point of view, and then we can go ahead and discuss about it the way it goes.
So, I mean, this is a topic that we did that in previous job. We had to do a fair amount of research because we are in the real estate business, and part of it we need to figure out where workers are going to be, how they're going to be living. So, I mean, the thing we've thought about, like it's it's one, are the types of jobs changing? Are what you're doing in the jobs changing?
Mhm.
Is it where you're working from changing? And is it the technology? It's the technology kind of architecture that you have to work with changing as well. And then lastly, performance, how you manage performance, how you decide uh, team culture, how does that change with a changing work? I mean, that's kind of like structurally the framework in which we've thought about it.
Mm.
And that's where our ideation kind of sat on. I don't know if that makes sense to everyone or like,
No, it's relevant because you are selling houses, so you should know whether they'll stay in the house or
we
go
were
to
selling
There's
offices.
commercial real estate.
offices. Okay. So
Offices.
you are out
So
of
it's like,
business now.
I'm not in that business anymore, so that doesn't not material to me anymore. But at that time, that was the question is where is the office going?
Mm.
It's a very business critical question for us.
We didn't really listen to anything that Bijoy's ex-firm had to say, so we decided to launch a new office fund and buy it.
So
I think it's going to take a while, right, for any business or anything to rewire. I mean, I don't want to bring the Trump thing, but there are ways in which you can disrupt and completely change how you do things. But it is going to take some time, right, to rewire because businesses tend to, in the world, tends to take some time to reorganize. So I think you're going to see some of these things impacting in pockets, but in a broad scale, how does it really change how we really do work? It'll take some time, right? I think the impact of AI, for example, on where you work from probably had less of or will have less of an immediate impact than COVID had, right? So, disruptions don't necessarily mean it's technology. I think technology disruptions happen over a long period of time, right? We always overestimate what happens in the short term, and underestimate long term. So I think it'll change, but how does it change? It'll take some time. I think it'll be in the context of, every economy, every region, every, type of work. It'll take some time. I think what people are generally talking about now are great ideas of what it could be, but not really something that's kind of, manifested.
It's a good point, I think, Jose. I think the question is there are trends that have been in place that are closer to fruition. There are trends that are, pure imagination that's going to take 10, 15, 20 years. The trends that are somewhere in between. So the question is almost when you look at the landscape of all the things that could change in the way work gets done, what's close in? What's a 5 to 10 year question? What's a 10 to 20 years? Agentic AI might be a 10 to 20 years before it truly comes into place. But there's a question is, where are we today? And what is a trend that was already the trends, I mean, like the work from home trend is not like it started before COVID. It just got a boost from COVID. The question is that is return to office really going to happen? That's the fundamental question, like.
So actually, if you think about what Joe said, actually, I do agree with the point that sometimes we tend to overreact as well. Because I remember during COVID, everyone was now, this is the future of work. It's going to be all remote. I have a neighbor who's like a VP of a major construction company, and they were planning office designs. Because the same thing I feel with AI right now is it's like it's going to take over everything. But again, like now to Bijoy's point, some of it short term, only a little bit will be taken over. Then there's this hybrid format. Down the line, it could. But again, you'll see that sometimes we as human beings tend to overreact. There is always also that human element that we need often that we neglect. That I feel that's a big factor in this coming back to work in the office trends that are at least many offices now still require people to come back in. So I do think we sometimes tend to overreact, but there's no doubt that things are changing very rapidly, and with AI and some of the other disruptions, there will be major changes. I don't think any of us can immediately predict what's going to happen, but we can see where some of these things are going.
Okay,
I think
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just trying to put another perspective because most of us are talking about like office-based jobs and all. I come from the industrial side, where we have to do work with our hands. We have to go check things up, do stuff. So, like what COVID showed us, especially to traditional industries, that what can be done from home and what can't be done from home. And also, like, how do we merge the people who work from home to the people who work at site? And that was the major thing about COVID. But coming to that AI sort of thing, I think it's challenging for most of the senior employees, I would say, compared to the younger staff who are adapting better to the new tools, let's say AI or whatever that's coming up. I think we are lagging behind, especially in the traditional industry, because the change that happens in our sort of industry, let's say process industry, energy, oil and gas, and all these things, the changes in the actual process is very, very slow. There's not, what do you call it? There's not much change in the actual process. The only changes that are happening is in the efficiency or, how to extract more out of that existing process. So that is where AI and all these tools will come in. And I think it will be very similar to the way the time when, long back when calculators or computers and all these things, people said all of us will be out of jobs. and all those things. So I think it will be a tool. How it will be used, how it will be integrated to the existing work will be up to us. I think we can decide the pace at which we take. But I think the major difference is I think there's generally a generation sort of a gap between the sort of existing senior staff and the junior staff, because we are generally struggling to we, in the sense I'm saying about the traditional industry, the people who are working with existing technology, and we are really struggling how this AI is going to benefit us. Because I don't know, most of you coming from technology side, you see the AI in a different way. We consider this to be, what is this going to do other than making some pictures and stuff like that. We have not, because we have seen the IoT part of it, Internet of Things, which is basically what process industry is, because we work with sensors, we work with motors and pumps and all those things. They interact, we generate a lot of data, and the what is the promise of AI and other things was that suddenly it will take everything out, and analyze it and tell you the answers straight away. It has not happened yet, but it's starting now. It's starting now. So I'm just trying to put a different perspective. From an industrial side, it's a completely different field. But I think the more the challenge what we have is for youngsters attracting talent to the traditional industries. It is so unglamorous. If you ask any youngster, where do you want to go and work? Because they want instant gratification. They want that fame, the money, and all those things. The way uh, people are projecting how they are, instantly becoming successful and all those things. And if you show them the traditional industry, they'll say, I'm not going to slave there for 20, 30 years to become an assistant manager or a VP or whatever. I want to be like a creator, making money and all this. So attracting talent is very hard in the traditional industry. So I'll put a pause. I think I've diverted the whole discussion to a completely different path.
Saray, you are in process industry means in a power plant?
Yeah, I work in power stations. I've always worked in a power energy industry. So
Power is going to be also always there. No, the future is we need
it's
power. We
it's
need
there.
power
Yeah, I
to
think
compute.
yeah.
Power is
No,
going to be
I think the major difference or the major challenge, I think, compared to all other industries for power and anybody who's working with fossil fuels and the elephant in the room is the climate change and all these things. And then there's the policy changes which are happening. The flip-flop which is happening because we have been pushed to go clean, green for like say, 10, 15 years, and suddenly the politics changes and somebody else comes in. I'm not going to name people, but they say, okay, come on, baby drill. And then suddenly the whole like, oh, what are we doing now? Should I change my industry to wind energy or something? Or should I go to solar? No, you're going back to oil and gas. Okay, right. So it's that uncertainty which actually limits investment in all these sort of industries because people are struggling. Should I put my money into this sort of industry? And also for young people, should I go to that industry because it probably has no future, isn't it? So I should go probably this direction. So there's a lot of confusion. So that creates a lot of difficulty in attracting good talent, top talent, into your sort of work. So what happens to like older people like us is we have to now pick up all those gaps because there has been a period of poor recruitment, poor what do you call it, filling of the middle level, not management, I would say skills. So the top management now has to turn around and say, oh, now I have to do that. I have to now learn AI, and now I have to understand what this does, till my apprentice or junior slowly picks up the process skills to fill up that gap. So I think it will be challenging for, especially for the traditional industry also.
I mean, it's
Can I just
go ahead.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
Josh.
I brought up something that is, I know we are talking about capabilities and technology, etc., that's impacting the future of work. What we should also talk about it, what is that we are not training, or what is that we are not doing, or what is the new generation not ready for, even if none of this stuff happens, I think the new generation, I think generally will have even a harder time fitting in. I know we talk about like the old people fitting in. I think the new generation is gonna have an even harder time fitting into work. Because I really believe whatever you do, whatever we have, the quality of work is what makes anybody successful, right? To have good quality of work, you need to put time, effort, you need to be diligent, you need to have the skills to work with others, you need to have you have to put the time in, right? And I think that's going to be the biggest challenge going forward, irrespective whether we have technology, whether you have AI, not AI. And I'll give a simple example. Like when I ask my team for, hey, what ideas do you have for automation? I work in commercial real estate investment management, a little bit like what Bijoy mentioned. And I'd say, okay, what can we do with in AI? They all go to ChatGPT and give you the top 10 list, right? And I'd say, hey, if I want to know what's the best top 10 songs, I would go to the Billboard list and I get it, right? But what I want to know is how is this going to help in our company, in our business? What should we do, right? That requires some thinking. That requires some analysis. That requires some time to be, spent. And I think that to me, future of work is all about whether we can work or not, right? And I think that basic fundamental, discipline, capability, is where I think our challenge is. It's not technology. Technology will come and go. There's a new AI thing. There's hyper automation. Like even in Sarai's business, I don't know, and I'm sure you guys are talking about automation, how human, robots can come in and do work. It'll happen over a period of time, right? But then you still need to have somebody to think about how that's going to work and how that's going to apply to the business line that you are in. So that to me is like the fundamental. I mean, I know AI is exciting, but I don't think that's a future issue for us.
So
Future
I'm
of
gonna
work.
jump in there because I really
Future
want
of
to hear other people speak. So I because now I'm speaking for the second time, I want to hear everyone else. But because we were talking about skills and the future generation, because this is something we struggle with every day in academia. So I'll keep it very simple. I'll talk about just the student part of it. So some of the things that for us AI is a really big thing, and what are the skills that we need people to develop? So some of the things that we think about are like how will it change how faculty teach, how faculty conduct research, but more importantly, how will students learn and the skills that students need. Given also, like Joe said, nowadays and generation, the new generation, they have a very different idea of work ethic. For them, the self is highest priority, work-life balance before even starting work. Those are all the things that they want to have, and again, I don't want to generalize, but a large, at least in America, a large part of the newer generation, they have very different ideas of work ethic compared to our generation. So for them, self is a huge priority. You'll find them leaving jobs. So it comes back to, and I really agree with Jose here, is that what value are they adding? How do we prevent them from just blindly using these tools and not, actually applying critical thinking? So some of the things, and when we talk to corporations and companies that we work with, they basically are looking for critical thinking skills. They're looking for communication skills, a lot of the soft skills, and the ability to use data. Maybe not, there will be a segment that has to really get into the depth of the data, but at least get the idea of the strategic use behind it. So I think those are the things, like Joe said, whether the technologies come or not, those are the things that we need to. I honestly feel, at least in today's world, if you have kids who are really good at problem solving, are willing to work hard, companies will snap you up because they see some of these other Generation Z workers. And it's, I don't know again how the situation outside in India, but in the US, we're having all these issues with workers. I'll stop. I don't know. A lot of you have opinions.
I mean, I think Sunil, the problem solving part to me is kind of the critical element because I think this new generation has been spoon fed to a point where if you if you change one parameter in their environment, they have they have no ability to adjust to it in a way that it's just like just dealing with a difficult problem, trying to figure out how do I frame it up? How do I think about it? What data do I need? How am I going to solve this? Just that ability to do it has kind of disappeared. The other thing I felt like with this new generation is they're so tied to their phone that the ability to understand people, EQ has definitely gone down with it. That they cannot understand, what the other person's feeling. They cannot figure out conflict resolution and the ability just to. I mean, business is all about conflict resolution. You're going to say something, somebody's going to disagree with it. You have to figure out where we're going to meet there and how does this get the ability to do that, and then if all these tools kind of come together, any dodo with a hat on can go to ChatGPT and sprint out what it tells them. Your differentiation is to take all of that and say, Wyatt, what does this mean to me? And what does it mean to my business? And how is this going to be? Because otherwise, I could hire the dumbest kid on the block and hire him, and he can go do the ChatGPT. That's not a difficult thing. But your ability to take that output and translate it into what should the business do differently? What should the process change? What decision you're trying to make? How does this data inform that decision? Just that ability to think through it. And I think we are kind of we're not training the kids enough on EQ and just problem solving in a fundamental way. Then I think this generation is going to struggle with that. I mean, they know how to use tools, but they don't know how to think, and they don't know how to problem solve, and they don't know how to work with each other.
Lindsay, this was the point. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you all. I always love to listen rather than to speak. But I'll take all of you to a different world. I'm not going to speak about AI or tech or anything. I am basically someone who worked in, I would like to be known as a sustainability professional. So I worked with government, I worked in water and sanitation, and now in afforestation, carbon accounting, and all those things. Given all these, I always feel like, being in an office 5 days of 40 hours or 50 hours or 70 hours is something which is outdated. Pardon me if all of you are working there. So I just took that freedom. I left my job and I just started exploring, how well you can work otherwise. So I now, I would say I'm a accidental entrepreneur. I have my own company which works in water and sanitation and carbon accounting consulting. So I just listened to, I think it was Bijoy who was telling about the skills. If you're interested, there is a report by World Economic Forum on the future of work. I think you must have gone through that. So which definitely tells about, of course, AI and big data is an important skill. But other than that, all those life skills like we are talking about, technological literacy, creative thinking, leadership and social influence, resilience, analytical skills, all these are the skills which everybody or those whom have been interviewed, like the employer and the employees, were talking that this is going to be the core skills for 2030. So which obviously means that, irrespective of the technology is there or not, this is what we are all driving towards. So that is one point I just thought of sharing. The other one is coming back to the, since I belong to the social enterprise category, I would rather suggest that there is a whole world which is emerging, and we are all aware that ESG is there, environment, social and governance, where corporates are driven. Like Sarai was telling about, what is to be done in whether you have to adopt solar or go back to oil and food. So even today also I came across something like the shipping industry is also moving in that direction, trying to reduce their carbon emissions. So there's a thin line which is happening between ESG and social enterprise. Earlier it was only someone who was doing a charity who was supposed to look at all those social and environment and things. But even now corporates are now started looking at that. So which is actually bringing forth a whole lot of opportunities in way in which you are going to work. it is bringing in more kind of work where we never thought about having, like, the sustainability, what is the manager. Then, there's a position also called environmental communication. There is climate finance manager, carbon accounting. I'm a carbon accounting professional. So there's also a very interesting area called eco-acoustics. Like with the acoustic or the sound from a habitat, you are now able to actually judge the health of that habitat, how much biodiversity it is having. So these kind of very interesting profiles are also emerging. So one side, everybody is saying that jobs are going to be diminished, but due to technology. But on the other side, Earth is actually giving you a number of job opportunities. So and there is also another profession which is called environment data assimilator. So this is what the field of sustainability, ESG, carbon accounting, climate action, everything is trying to offer. So I think definitely this is going to be increasingly tech driven, because I worked in an area where we have been using technology like IoT and all those remote monitoring technologies to take decisions on what is to be done on a particular community or an area for providing the best water and sanitation solutions. But on the other front, like what I was telling, field work will become more prevalent. And I've seen there are a number of young volunteers who want to be environment stewards, want to come to the community, to the nature, and be with the nature. So field work is definitely, though we say that let us not have work at the office, but you will see more of them moving around. So that is something which I feel like it's very optimistic and very encouraging. And of course, and the last point I would like to make is that there is some concept called nowhere office. If you are interested, you can also read that book by Julia Hobbs-Barbel. And it is about, I'm actually experiencing that joy of nowhere office. I had been working initially for at least for 1 year. I worked for different people, but I never went to an office. Now I work. I started as a solopreneur, but now I have people who help me out, but they sit in different locations. So it's definitely like, the geographical limitations are not going to affect. Of course, there are traditional industries where you need to have a hybrid work style, but definitely these are opening new opportunities for us to explore and encourage the younger generations to I think they are going to be the stewards of Earth and the planet, and probably the future what we all look forward to. Thank you.
So yeah, go ahead, sir. Vijay.
Couple of things. I think you're saying, I'm hearing a couple of things from what you said. One was around, are the types of jobs that exist going to change? And then the second part is, where are we going to be working in the new jobs? Those are the two things. And I think you're going towards almost the 100% remote as the way we work, where we work, or it's like, there are jobs that are going to be remote, and there are jobs that are going to be in office, and there are jobs that are going to be, and where does the mix of where we work and
yes.
what we work at change is kind of what I'm hearing you talk.
Yeah, Bijoy, I think we cannot be 100% remote, because you still have to have people at sites. So that's what I'm telling. There's a tipping point wherein we have to be flexible towards identifying or telling people that you have to be at the office 9 to 5. So there should have the judgment wherein you feel that this person not required. He has to be rather at a field, or he has to be at a place where he is comfortable to give his expertise or his knowledge. But there are industries where we come from very hardcore industry. Probably maybe in 20-30 years down the line, it may be robots who would be managing those shop floors. So probably you can sit at home and then manage the robots from home. So they will also have that kind of a scenario. But until then, I think we cannot go for 100% remote job. So I'm someone who could do that, because if I had been in my earlier job, I could not do that. But since I chose to be here, I could manage a 100% remote job. So I think we have to have a very clear judgment about where is that tipping point where we decide on a job which can be remote or hybrid. And then the second point is that, like, people who are new entrants, it is always necessary to have them in a part of a community or a team. So I think we can encourage them to be there and provide them with a flexible work kind of an environment, which all of you must have been doing it right now. So I'm
And I
not
think
someone who is, yeah.
I mean, the question that I think there is a struggle almost by industry to kind of figure out what's the culture of this industry. So I think Sarai is kind of speaking to like, power plants, and it's much more of an in-person culture. And if that culture is kind of set in place, then you can set expectations. Because the challenge is that if you have like in certain industries, like I mean, I work in marketing. All these kids want to work at home. They don't necessarily want to come in the office, but it's like you need to establish a standard, and we need to culturally agree that that's the standard for this industry. And the question is that as industry by industry, because I don't think we can set a culture across the entire workforce, because we'll get too much resistance for it. So it's almost like an industry by industry culture. And is this a 100% remote industry? Is this a hybrid-ish industry? Is this a full in-person industry? I think we're negotiating to what people will tolerate and what managers will tolerate. And we're still in that negotiating phase where it doesn't seem like we've agreed on anything. I think the workers want to work from home and the managers want the workers in office. And it's not clear where we're landing on there right now. But it's that struggle is going on is what I'm feeling.
Yes.
So I think what I'm also hearing is that we can't really define a specific way of doing things. It's more opportunistic.
Yeah.
Right? And
Yeah.
what I hear Bincy saying, I completely agree with, which is you just need to be, you fit kind of your options, and you kind of, it's like a Lego set, right? You kind of align what makes sense for you as an individual, right, as a community, etc. Because just go back in time, right? When we were all like farming, everybody woke up at 6 a.m, went to the stuff, right? Either work from home, work from, I don't know, but it seems like maybe it does work from home. And then we had industrial, automation, everybody went to manufacturing, right? And then they said, oh, we need to operate these things 24/7. Now you got shifts, right? So I think, we kind of change based on what is available. That's kind of my view on it and as new and new things come up, like when we were all, studying, right? Either you become an engineer or you're a doctor or you're a loser, right? That's generally how everybody viewed the world. I can say that in front of this group. But that's not reality, right? I mean, now look at this. There's so many opportunities come up. Nobody like kids have more options. And I think that's great. And everyone's able to figure out great successes, whether it's startup or whether it is marketing jobs or whether it is running new businesses, building new things. And I think that's what is going to happen, and people will have choices. I think we all want to have some certainty, so we feel like, and maybe we are kind of a little bit old in that way. We want certainty, so we feel like we want some type of a sense of calm. Whereas I
Stability.
think true calm is chaos, right? Things that we may feel like chaotic, maybe it is completely calm for the new generation. The question is, are we all ready to kind of operate in that very, in a situation where you're kind of organizing what makes sense for you, right? What do they call it? Entropy, right? High level of entropy, I think.
But I think, Jose, the question is that if you get unlimited flexibility, you end up with a completely untenable situation, because and like you say, it's hybrid and you can pick your day. Then the problem is trying to set a meeting where when is everybody going to be in the office? When can I set a meeting? There's all kinds of logistical. So that's where, you need a certain level of standard so that people know what other people are working on,
Yeah.
working
And
at,
for what,
and when
Vijay? In
But
what
I
context?
think you both are talking about different things, right? Like
Yeah.
Joe is
Yeah.
talking about more about like we need, like things are going to change. And going back to the skills, adaptability would be a big skill that you would need,
Yeah.
lifelong learning and adaptability. You're talking about how to structure it in different environments, which I totally agree. I mean, yeah.
You need
That you have to
someone.
solve for, right? Every company will solve for that. Every industry will solve for that in some way or the other. But I think there will be some, like I said, it's chaos compared to what we traditionally have been used to. And it looks like chaotic to us. It looks like a little bit unmanageable, untenable to us, but it'll figure itself out.
I'm agreeing with you, like Joseph, it's like it is chaos, but it is an unmanageable chaos. It's where it is right now. Just from I think we haven't got to the place where we have figured out this is what the structure for a industry is. This is the way we're going to organize, and this is the amount of flexibility that we're going to give. This is the amount of like predictability that we want. And it's like we just haven't we're post-COVID, we've all kind of like been evolving to like what is the new standard. And I don't think we've gotten to the place where that standard is very
Vijay, that's exactly what Jose is saying, that it'll keep changing. That we'll never reach that kind of stability and definition. Bhati, you wanted to say something. I saw you.
I just wanted to say because there are a lot of great things I heard. See, at the end, we need to be flexible mentally because if I would say when I passed out, so I thought I'm an engineer, I'm BTech, I should not do this.
Yeah.
If I was a flexible that time, maybe I would have called you, come, I'll give you $1 million a month. Yeah. Because your mind, if you're flexible, you can adapt to so many things, and you can do today, you can be a cook, tomorrow you can be, maybe a owner of 5-star hotel. And there are two big stories going on last 10, 20 years, and it will continue. One is sustainability, carbon and environment. Second is AI, right? So these two stories have been sold so nicely, right? Why I tell you. When I used to go to my village in 80s, we had everything sustainable. Yeah. Then somebody came, no, you have to do this. And we started doing this. Now the same government coming to our village say we have to be sustainable again. I don't know from where and from how we brought this carbon and from where we get this carbon. There are top mafia and there are fixers, and there are people, those who follow. So I am on a fixer stage. Yeah, I fix for mafia. Yeah, like in my industry, food industry will be there. People will manufacture macaroni. You need particular kilowatt of power. Then somebody from Sweden comes and he says, no, this motor is 4-star, you have to do 5-star. Man, my target segment cannot afford 5-star motor. You are telling me to fix the environment. I cannot fix my stomach. How can I fix my environment? So the things are, it's not so simple. These stories are good. They give you a lot of pleasure, dopamine, and happiness. But at the end, you have to be practical. And new generation, the basic thing they should have is like flexibility to operate and adaptability. And then they should have skills. And we are successful not because of our education, because our parents have taught us that we need to be very flexible, adaptable. And even if we get a chance to sleep on a floor, like if you go to Sabrimala or you go to Hajj or wherever, you sleep on floor or wherever. But tomorrow, if children go to Sabrimala, they will look for 5-star hotel.
Yes.
So these are very basic things in life. We should not go away from the basics. You go to your culture, you will find 99% of the things what we are discussing. Of course, if we have to sell these things to people, sell these things into market, I need to create some stories. And those theories should have ethos, pathos, and whatever logo, so they can get connected to me. Otherwise, at the end, you need to live life and make business cost effective. If you have a hybrid office, if it is not cost effective and impactful, why to have at the end, you need to make money and with a minimum bare cost. Then later on, you weave stories around it and make everybody happy. If somebody is like, this is what I think. Yeah.
I think
Thanks, Matthew.
Matthew is dropping some truths there. I totally agree with a lot of that
Yeah.
stuff.
So because I have to go attend a meeting, but it was a great learning. Yeah.
Mic drop.
And I think we should meet for some party somewhere on the planet and spend a nice Saturday evening together. I came today for Smita only, but it was a good to hear Sunil and Sarai, because Vijay is an old buddy, so I don't take him seriously.
Sharp level here.
Okay, Sunil, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
So the different perspectives, like I agree and to all of this, and all of them are relevant, different context. I agree with Bijoy that giving too much flexibility what creates a lot of chaos. They're not able to cajole people to work. I can understand Bijoy's problem. I am also in similar situation. I am also having a nowhere office, so I'm also in that confusion. But the aspect that I want to bring about is the speed in which this change is happening. That's affected by the environment that you are in. So things change at a different pace in India, things change at a different pace in UAE, and things change at a different pace in US. So that also is becoming a factor. Now, we are in a very small city, city state, and these guys have sufficient money and they're able to change, fail, recorrect. So we are exposed to a lot of change happening, and change happening very fast. I have seen a 5-day Friday. We had holiday on Friday. We shifted Friday holiday to Sunday, Saturday, Sunday. Now they are having 5-day week. Now people are working only 4 days. 4 days, and now like there was a Friday they don't go to office, and now flexi, and now so you have to really, sometimes your environment also pushes you a little bit hard. And here there is zero government. Now government is giving everything to private sector and only managing and government is becoming like a private sector, like they're charging for everything. So that sort of change is happening. And sometimes this is like a lab where I see some future trends happening, So I see there will be less of government and a lot of processes. Now, you see, if I want to take a driving license, I go to a kiosk and take it. Can you believe here? I go to a petrol pump to test my car. I do my eye test and then I go and update a kiosk and I get it. So they have automated many things like that. So sometimes technology is helping in the speed of change, and sometimes government policy is also, so some vision have by leadership, by the environment also shapes the change. Now I know that I understand Modi is also accelerating a lot. He's taking out many laws, so things are improving in at least on export areas in India. So this also will affect change. So we are also forced to think fast. Now I am telling everybody they have to use ChatGPT as a must, because I don't want them to delay any letter going out. They cannot, So that also is a factor. I agree with everything. We are all coming from different ecosystems and different speed and space of an organization. So we all have different perspective. But I fully agree with Jose. The point is that future of work is whether we are willing to work. Going to ChatGPT is not work, whether you can actually think and apply. And agree with Bijoy also that, giving too much flexibility. Now I started appreciating why you have punching of cards, why people have to come to. I started believing it. Oh, who made this office, etc. Because having people online on a screen like this every day morning, I have to wake everybody up at 8 o'clock and bring everybody on screen. Otherwise, I'm not sure whether this guy is working or not. So I have to wake up as a leader. I have to show them that I am also working. So I'm out of ideas. What to do to get people to work. Also, too much autonomy. So nowadays, I feel it's better to give job description, do this job, and now I think people are not willing to think. Also, they are like they're not willing to think. If you don't tell them, they don't do it. Like this is the way things are going.
So Bijoy, actually, to your point about the remote work, like every semester. So I'm in charge of faculty and staff. Every semester we revise our staff remote work policy. So it's like if we're looking for something stable, I don't think it's going to happen because every time we get feedback from the chairs, we get, okay, now we got to do this policy. So it's like almost like every semester we got to change it. However, I take your point. If we had to make critical decisions about infrastructure and office space, then we would prefer that. But I mean, we are using that, the building, so that's not a factor. But we are keeping on changing every semester. Okay, someone's complaining, the chair comes and says, well, my staff is not in. Okay, let's go back. Do we need to change this? So if we're looking for some constant thing that's going to happen, I don't think it's ever going to happen.
Yeah, no, and that's totally true. I mean, so, I mean, what I think is that we're going through a negotiating phase where there's a negotiation happening between workers and managers. We just haven't gotten to the place where we've gotten agreement. So the
Yeah.
change is happening because, workers are pushing a certain way, managers are pushing back. We're just going back and forth in terms of like what should the standard be for my industry? And I don't think there's any, except for the ones where there's no choice. I mean, it's completely clear. Like doctors, I mean, medical care needs to happen in person. There's no, there's, I mean, maybe there's a question there even.
Not really.
Not
But,
really.
Not really.
Have
As
Zoom
of today,
sessions.
as of today, as of
As of
today,
No,
maybe.
no, I
I
think
can tell you how.
We still have telehealth appointments, right? And
Yeah,
it's
telehealth. But it's
I
like,
think
other
yeah,
than that, every industry is kind of negotiating their way to what can we agree on that workers can be okay with and managers can be okay with. But it's this back and forth. We're still in that back and forth, like, when workers have more power, they push for more autonomy. When managers have more power, they push for less autonomy. And we're just kind of going to the place and we're just kind of, at some point, we'll get to a place where, like, okay, this is what we agree on. It is a 3-day week. Yeah, it is 3-day
For a
work.
semester, like how Sunil was telling. For the
No,
next
no,
semester, we'll
For
agree
a
on that,
semester,
and
and
then
then
we
we
change.
disagree, and then we go back to the negotiation. But
no,
it's
I
this
think
back and forth thing that we're
yeah,
going through that we just
yeah,
haven't settled.
yeah, I
Like,
think Bijoy, you're right. This is exactly what happened in our case also. Like, there was a lot of, the people, the managers were always saying that all the employees, all the staff is slacking, when we had COVID working from home. So it reached a point where they said, COVID or no COVID, everybody come back to office.
yeah,
We just want to reevaluate how we are doing things. And then they started sending people back after that. They just wanted to, but it was difficult later because whenever we were recruiting for anyone, the first question they ask is how much is my percentage of work from home? It's like we said we there's no negotiation. It's all at site. They said no. Everybody is offering at least 20% or 30% work from home. Uh, Even for a technician, plant technician who has to work with his hands. He said, no, there is no negotiation. You have to work from at site. I said,
yeah,
no, if I am doing any admin work, can I do that from home? So, as you said, it was a negotiation, but I think we are on a good place where we have agreed for admin staff, okay, you can work, let's say 50% from home. Even then, we're not giving them 100%. We're saying, okay, come to work because we need to see people. We need to, that people to people interaction makes a huge difference. And I think every industry has seen that because as Wahid was saying, you waking up the people on a screen is the worst thing that you can do. They still have nightmares of that COVID time when the morning 8 o'clock you hear that Teams that ringing noise and it's like it's scariest thing you have ever had, and it was so unproductive also. Yeah, I think Jose, I really understand that adaptability part of it because one of the things that we look for people, especially youngsters, is the right attitude. It's not the knowledge or anything like that. It's the attitude, the right attitude, the positive attitude. They come in and say, okay, if I don't know, I ask. If I have to do something, if you ask me to do something, I do it, and I ask you. If I don't know, I'll ask you. That attitude we miss in a lot of new guys, they come with that sort of attitude that they know everything and they don't ask and make mistakes, and then it's a nightmare. So I think for young people, getting the kids with the right attitude makes a huge difference in the workplace, because we would love to retain such people, but staff retention, when you get the right person, you have to nurture those employees, nurture those junior staff, which is another big thing that our age group has to do, to keep those kids still interested in your field, make it exciting for them.
I mean,
So
I think that
yeah,
you struck
Yeah,
an important point for me is like, coachability.
yeah,
The new generation, there is a difference between those who are coachable and those who are not. And I think I think when I interview people, if I see signs that you're not coachable, that's a red flag for me. It's a no. Uh,
How do
and
you check that? How do you check that?
it's just kind of, can check it exactly, but it's like you start to understand how they went through. You go through a project with them. You see how they went about it. You start to like see what kind of things were they talking to other people. What are you learn? What's your sources of learning? All these things that kind of tell you. And it's also with our kids. It's like this is where putting the kids through organized sports, I think, is good. Like my son, I feel like one of the things it's helped him is that he's playing American football right now. So his coach has rules for him. His coach has goals for him. His coach has like processes for him. All of that is helping him. I mean, I almost think it's a good thing for him in the workforce once he gets in there, that he'll have to deal with, because there's a difference between the kids who like just come and I know everything. I mean, like Sarai, what Sarai is saying, it's like, I know everything. It's like, how do you deal with somebody like that? Because it's like they don't, but the attitude is there. And it's like, and I think, Thomas, I mean, like the question for you is like, how are you teaching coachability in the students? Are they coachable? Can they be, or are they assuming that they know everything and they come into the workforce and then it's a nightmare. They're trying to figure out how to like manage that.
So
I think, can I just a minute?
yeah, sure.
yeah, sure.
Yeah, I think when your employees say that, I mean, your team says that they want to work from home, there are two things. What I understand over the years is that it's not actually exactly work from home. They want flexibility in their hours, because we all think in a 9 to 5 time. So some of them may be productive in the afternoon, maybe from 5 to 7 or something. So that kind of a flexibility is what actually they mean by that. The second one is that, like, I think it was Bijoy was telling about are we really working? So unless nowadays, I think we all worked under, some way of compulsion or the otherwise. We got a job and we did it. But now everybody is looking for, like, work is a passion for them. So unless you are not able to pursue your passion, they don't find any interest in the work. So I think there are two things. One, they're looking for flexibility. And if this is not your passion, can they pursue the other passion they have? That defines your work as a young, someone who is getting young blood who is getting into your team. So that's what I feel like, over the years. And probably that flexibility, what they mean by work from home is definitely about the best time where they can offer. So are you ready to accept that time during which they can be at their best? So that's what I think.
Yeah.
So 3 points. Great discussion. A lot of things to think about. I think what a big part is apprenticeship, right? Which is kind of what Sarai was referring to, is learning how to work. I don't think people, if you are not exposed to things in the world, you do not know, right? And what happens is that you get into this bubble, whatever it is. I mean, it doesn't really matter whether you're a kid, whether you are a student, or even any one of us, right? I think our understanding of the world, our understanding of what passion is, our understanding of what we can do, right? They're all defined by the context we are in. Many of us are in the US, so we are for many years, right? Decades now. We think like in the US context, right? So the environment makes a big difference. So a big part of like learning work learning how to work, all these skills that we are talking about used to come because there was a mentor and there was an apprentice, right? I mean, in like I think in Japan, in a culture, it's a little bit more prevalent, I think, in sensei and that whole concept. And I think that was a big part of how we became successful, right? You go back and think about your own life, right? There was somebody mentoring you and coaching you, right? So, and Bijay, I think the coachability is a little bit more like treating the symptom. So the question is, what is a context, right? We let our kids to be who they are, right? Or the environment let our kids to be who they are. So I think that's a big part of it, of the future of work, is that how are people going to even figure out what work is? And the more they're isolated, whether it's on the screens, whether it's on, where they are. And I'll tell you, right, when I have I've seen fairly young success, like very smart individuals, gone to the great colleges, do things very well. But I think that their success is limited because they are in an echo chamber, right? And one of the things that I encourage them to do is start like, and when people don't, how do they even know to go and ask someone for help? They don't. Right, to earlier point, they think that they know everything or they do not know everything. They talk to each others and then ask them, okay, where are you getting this information from? My friends. Okay, how much experience do they actually have in this field to give you a validated answer? Right? Not so much. But then you have all these resources around you. Why are you not going and asking them? Oh, I did not know, right? So I think so there is apprenticeship, there is this bubble that we have people, uh, many of us in, and as well, and more than new generation. I think we got to figure out how to change that structure and to open it up. And to me, that's the biggest issue with. I'm not against. I'm all for what Vincey's point, which is flexibility, right? Flexibility is what everybody needs, which means that we want to solve the problems, right? So solving problems is all about resourcefulness and how do you figure out what resources helps you and to get there, whether to get a work, whether to live your life, whatever. And then the third aspect is, I always say, follow the money, right? Money is the most powerful aspect here, right? So interestingly enough, right? If you ever, like 20 years ago, would you have ever thought like Friday will be an off, like not an off day in Middle East, right? I mean, right now the Middle East is working like a PE company, right? It's a private equity company. It's actually a private equity company. They just have a lot of money. They're investing in it to get returns, right? And it's deregulation, same concept, right? We are trying to create more wealth for a lot of whatever it is, which kind of works against ESG and all the conservation and taking care of the world, right? So there is that aspect that is really, really impacting the future of work, right? At the end of the day, kind of work for money, right? We need money. Money, if you don't have money, you can't live well. We want upward mobility, right? So people are going to follow where the money is. So that's where the jobs are going to get created, and people who have money are going to really change the premise of where the jobs are. So, I mean, I know these are like three different kind of, things in different corners, but I think they're all kind of working against each other.
Because I think you brought up one thing that's
Smita, I think Darshana has
Just
a
one
hand.
second. Yeah, Darshana.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say a few things about this coachability based on what I have seen amongst my students. So these young people, I would categorize them, I guess, like the ones that are extremely creative versus the ones perhaps are not as creative. So the coachable ones, like they come in terms of like they like everything to be told, given instructions like in a detailed manner, and they're very well coachable. You tell them something, they just do exactly that. But then they don't put the extra creativity. Whereas the ones that are not coachable, sometimes it's very frustrating, especially when they are in the lab. You tell them, you can, like, okay, these are the rules in the lab. You need to follow this. They will try to break the rules at every step, but they are the ones who are the most creative ones. So they come up with solutions. They come up with, like they may stretch the rules, but I guess that creativity aspect in them is what makes them stretch the rules. So one example, I had this rule, like the four-legged robots. You can't operate it unless and until there's a graduate student present. And sometimes, like, there has been cases where people broke the rule, and one kid actually went in on a Saturday and operated. And but then, like, these are the kids who later on do much better in terms of give them something to do or not give them something to do. They come up with their own solutions. They are extremely creative. Well, actually, with this creativity, there is one more aspect. There are some kids who probably don't have enough knowledge, but they have their creativity, and that becomes a little issue, because then they use the creativity for not productive things, and that is where the channeling is important. So I just wanted to bring that out. Thanks.
I mean, there's a couple of good, one good point there is that there's two aspects to it. There's the coachability of the kid and the efficacy of the coach. One of the things with a good coach is going to be able to like manage a very creative player and make sure that their capabilities are maximized. Now, if you're a bad coach, you're going to like, this is my way. This is exactly how you're going to do. I'm going to lay it out for you, and you have no flexibility. That's a bad coach in my book, versus a good coach is kind of, working with the people you have and kind of figuring out, how do you maximize them? And that's where you're talking to like, are you a good coach as well? Not just that, the apprentice. But I want to go back to what Jose was saying. We have lost this mentor apprenticeship mindset. And I think, to me, that one of the biggest things that's happened because is that we are going through multiple technology changes. And what happens with that is that a younger generation comes into the workforce thinking that they have nothing to learn from the older generation. An older generation is looking down and saying, I have technology change I can basically struggle to manage. So I'm insecure about, my role in this whole thing. It's a place where, there's insecurity on our parts. I mean, a lot of us kind of spoke to like, we are feeling insecure about our capabilities, our abilities to manage. We have people coming into the workforce who just don't think that we can teach them anything. So it's an environment where it's kind of difficult to establish. There's insecurities on both sides, right?
That's there. I mean, so Bijoy, I think just combining what Jose was saying, Bijoy and Darshana, I think one thing which probably, maybe we are not able to pinpoint as to what is that one thing which is like a binary, right? Which is making them a good employee and not good, is that willingness to work that Jose was saying. See, if there's a creative person and doesn't want to work, they're not going to try this out. They're not coachable. They'll not try also. At the same time, so that's a binary thing. Are they here to do work, or they're just here for paycheck? I think goes back to what Binsi was talking about. We have to somehow entice them to say that, okay, this is what your or find, help them find what their passion is and drive them in that this one. So we're stuck with a set of people who are not interested in working. That's where the entire problem comes in. If people are doing, like Sarah, when you said about somebody who does mistakes and breaking things, you were, at some level, you're happy that someone tried it at least, right? It's not that true. Most often people, nowadays what we get is, I tried, this is not compiling. Who figure out? Right? That's not there. So coach, I mean, like how Darshana was saying, they have to be told. So it is about, okay, am I doing my best and then looking for support, or I don't want support? Like how, I mean, you brought out a brilliant point, Bijoy. It's our insecurity also. So we are not really adapting to the moment we see somebody who's breaking some of our rules, we are scared how this is going to happen. Right? So it's as much as for us to change and adapt as to how the new generation should change also. So, I mean, I'm happy that Binsi is giving a positive twist to think. I have only heard all these, oh, these people don't have problem solving, they don't have critical thinking. This is what I've heard in every other conversation that I go. So I was very happy that Binsi has that some good view. Sunil
I
and
want to.
Darshana, you should also tell.
I mean, I just wanted to just, I mean, I think as a group, one of the things we really need to look at and say, take a good personal look at ourselves and say, are we good coaches? Because I think we have to get, I mean, one of the adaptability on this group and this is like, are you a good coach and have you adapted your skills to manage through technology changes, through various things that, in the new environment? Have you updated your ability to coach? And I think that is from the future of work, we take it from our generation and what we need to do. We need to become better coaches. And unless you're an individual contributor, then different. You have to learn the technology and kind of keep up with it. That to me is kind of the challenge for us.
One of the things I have tried to do is, in this environment here, you have to stay relevant. Things are changing. Emiratis are getting more trained. They are giving quotas for nationals, etc. So I've always tried to position myself as exploring the new area. Okay, and sometimes I get overexcited, or I tend to represent and try to do things in that space. Now, the recent thing I've been doing is on the metaverse. Okay. It so happened that like I'm part of an ecosystem running I came across a professional. I wanted to create some new innovations in the ecosystem to show off. So I went and approached somebody, and then I found one guy who implemented, or a partner who implemented metaverse properly. And now I'm trying many use cases of metaverse, and I have an environment to sort of test it out within the ecosystem. And I started believing that I cannot compete in the present space because it's already saturated. And now let me try some new things with new technology and new use cases. Even if I don't succeed, at least people will perceive me as a little bit more sophisticated. So this is something that I'm trying. I'm being honest about it. And even see all this, because I was running Chai Pe Charcha, I was better in managing during COVID. The Harvard professor asked me, how do you spotlight so effectively? I was just thinking, how come? I did a HBS conference for them, and during HBS, and then I was the administrator. I spotlighted it very big team called and asked me, how do you do all these things? And I was thinking, wow. Sometimes,
skills.
Yeah, sometimes
now that Wahid has spilled his success beans.
I was really surprised to understand that the spotlighting. I make sure that the screen is